In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the antenna base on this Chevy Silverado. Let's get into it. You want to start out by making sure the steering wheel is straight and making sure the wheels are straight ahead. It's not just turned to one side or another. We're going to remove this cover. Just take a small straight blade screwdriver, get in the corner here, or a trim tool. Just pop up underneath. Then it slides down, so there's clips on the side, and then will slide down. Now we want to remove this bolt right here. Use a T50 socket. This is for the seatbelt. Take that bolt out. You can slide the seatbelt out. There is a little cover right here. Just take the straight blade screwdriver. Get underneath there. And then the seatbelt is unattached from the seat. With the seat all the way forward in the back, we're going to remove these covers. Just use a trim tool right around the front part of it. Just pop up and then it slides back. It's just clipped in right there. Then we're going to pop this cover off. Just use a small pocket screwdriver or a straight blade screwdriver underneath here. Just pop this cover up. It's just clipped in. Now using an E14 socket, we're going to take this bolt out right here, loosen that up. And on this side, we're going to do the same. Take this bolt out. Now we need to move the seat to the back position. If you have a manual seat, then obviously just move it all the way back. And pop this cap off here just with a straight blade screwdriver. And this cover right here, just use the trim tool, get underneath. That pops off right there. This little piece stayed on here. Let's pop that off. It's just gonna go in there. Just like that. We're going to remove these nuts. Use an E18 socket. In the back part of the seat, there's a cover right here. You want to take that cover off. You can move the seat forward if you need to. Pop that off. It's just clipped in right there. And then you want to get the seat where you want it. And then you can disconnect this connector. Just squeeze on the two sides here. And lift the lever. And then you disconnect the seat. Now you can pull the seat out. Just grab the seat. Carefully twist it out. And now we're going to do the same procedure on the other side. In the center console, we're going to take this tray out, just grab on the side. You should be able to pull up. If you can't, if it doesn't pull up that easily, just get a trim tool underneath and pry up. It's just clipped in on the sides and the back. Set that aside. Disconnect some wires. You can slide them off the retainers right there. Use a straight blade screwdriver. Just push down on the tabs, slide those off. There's a connector right here. Just push down on the tabs on the two sides. Rotate that. And this should slide out. like that. Now this retainer right here, slide this off. Now you can grab the center console and slide it back. And it slides right out. We're going to disconnect the battery. Use a 10mm wrench. Loosen up the terminal. Just on the negative side. You can take this plate off if you need to, but you don't have to. And just slide that off and out of the way. Take this cover off, just pull underneath there, slides right off. Using a 10mm socket underneath the release for the parking brake, there's a bolt. You want to take that bolt out. Like that. Then you can slide that back. There's 2 screws under here. Use a Phillips head screwdriver. Take those screws out. And grab this panel. And it just slides back. It's just clipped in. I'm going to pull this panel off. Just use a trim tool. Get underneath. Just pops right up. And it's clipped in. I just grab this panel. It's going to pull straight back. It's just clipped in right there. It might be clipped in right there. That piece is broken. I'm going to disconnect these wires right here. Just use a couple trim tools just to pop these clips off. And this is connected to this fuse box right here. Just ratchet that off and disconnect it. Same with this one. And we want to disconnect these wires as well. Just pop these off with the trim tool. We'll disconnect this. Pull that retainer out and then pop this off. Just like that. Just follow the wires along. They connect to the BCM right here. We'll just disconnect those right there. There's one. Another one. Using a 10mm socket, take these nuts off. There's an extra wire here. This isn't factory, but if you have a wire like that, you want to disconnect that. And then take the other 4 nuts off. Same 10mm socket. And then take this bracket, it slides out. I'm going to remove this vent under here. Just use a trim tool. There's a little push clip right here. Get under there and pry that out. Use two trim tools. Just pop them out. And it slides right out. Remove this wire retainer right here. This wire goes all the way up to the airbag on the steering column. Pull that out. There's another wire that's over here. You want to disconnect this. Just push on the little tab. It slides out. And there's another connector right here. You're going to have to squeeze the two side tabs and fold over the lever. Push the lever over and it slides right out. Then the steering column is completely disconnected electrically. Again, you want to make sure the steering wheel is centered and the wheels are straight. Now I'm going to put some wire ties around the steering wheel so that we don't mess up the clock spring when we take the column out. Just put those around here and then around the shifter column. Not too tight. It just needs to prevent the wheel from spinning. We have to remove this bolt and nut. Use a 13mm wrench on the bolt side, then a 15mm wrench on the nut side. Loosen this up. Once you get it started, you can use a ratchet wrench, be a little quicker. Take that nut off. Okay, take the bolt out. Now we're gonna separate the intermediate shaft from the steering column. Just slide that down, out of the way. This shifter cable has to be disconnected. Just use a trim tool or a screwdriver or prying tool. Pop that off right there. There's a little clip right here that needs to be popped out. Just slide that piece out. And there's two tabs, one on each side. You could use some pliers if you need to, or just a screwdriver. Just push those tabs in. Slides out. Just be careful, you don't want to push on the cable and have it shift the truck out of park. Now just slide that to the side. And the cable goes around the back side of the column, and you have to pop the cable out of that. So just pop the cable out here, and it should be just sitting right there. When we take the column out, this should just slide out. If not, you just might have to adjust it as you're pulling the column out. Next, we're gonna support the column, and we need to take these nuts off. There's 4 of them. Keep in mind, sometimes there is spacers in between the column and the body right here. So you wanna see where those come out of. It looks like there's 2 in the back side. So when you put this back together, if you put them in the front, the column's not gonna be aligned right. So keep that in mind when you take this down. See if there's any of those spacers. Now I'm gonna use a 15mm socket. You can take the 2 back ones out first, and then I'll support it. Support the column and take the 2 front ones. Using a 15mm socket. All right, now drop this down. You can see those are those spacers. Oops. Those spacers were right there and right there. So remember, when we put this back together, we'll have to put those there. Disconnect this cover. Just pull, just grab and pull. It's just clipped in. 2 clips stayed in there. Take this bracket off using a 13mm socket. And remove this nut right here. Use a 10mm socket. And there's one on the back on the driver's side. Take that one out as well. And one on the passenger side. Take that out as well. You can grab this. It's actually a speaker. Slide it up and slide it out. And we'll take these panels off on this side. Just use a trim tool. Get underneath. Pop these up. It's just clipped in. Grab this panel over here. And just pull it straight back. You can use the trim tool. Pop that out. It is clipped in. Should be another clip there. Pull this cover off here. Just grab. Pull it outwards. Disconnect these connectors over here. Just slide the tab out. Pull the connector out. Slide out. This connector right here, push down on the tab. Slide that out, and then one more connector. You might need a pocket screwdriver for that one. And then using a trim tool, take this retainer off here, just like that. There's another one right here. Pop those out. Now we're going to take this panel off. Use a 7mm socket. And there's screws going up. Take those out. There's another one over here. And there should be one more over here. This vehicle doesn't have it. And that just slides right down and out. We're going to take this pillar off, the A pillar. You want a straight blade screwdriver, pop this cover off. There's another one right here. Pop that off as well. There's 2 10mm. We're going to take those out. Using a 10mm socket. Take those screws out. That handle comes right off. You can grab the pillar. Slides out. I'm going to pull it up a little bit. Then you have a speaker to disconnect. Just push down on the tab right here. If you need to, use a pocket screwdriver or a pick. Slide that off and out of the way. Now take the driver's side one off. You're going to use a straight blade screwdriver. Just take this cover off right here. Using a 7mm socket, we're going to take the screw out and grab the pillar. Same as the other side. Just pull it down and up, and we'll disconnect the speaker. Now we're going to take this panel off. Just use a trim tool. Just get underneath here. Pry up. Just clips in. Slide it up. You want to pull it out slightly. There is a connector we're going to disconnect right here. This connector right here is connected to the ambient light sensor. You can just grab it, twist it to the left, and slide it out. That's okay right there. We'll just slide this panel off. Now we're going to disconnect these connectors right here. You can use a straight blade screwdriver. Pop this connector off. And then you want to use a trim tool, get behind it. Disconnect it right there. There's another retainer over here. You want to disconnect that. This is going to just slide out of the way. You have another connector right here. We'll disconnect that. Push down on the tab. Another retainer. Right there. Pop that off. On the passenger side, disconnect the antenna wire right there. Set that aside. There's another connection right here. I'm going to disconnect this. You just push on the two tabs and this slides off. And then there's a retainer right there. You want to pop that off. Set that aside. There's a ground wire right here. Use a 10mm socket and take that nut off. Take that off and then grab the wire and just slide it off. Using a 10mm socket, we'll remove this ground nut as well. And pull the ground wire up. On top, there's some bolts that are going straight down. Use a 10mm socket, take those out. Be careful of the glass. Disconnect this connector right here. Just pull up on the lock tab right there. It slides out. And then if you have to push down on the connector, just use a screwdriver. And then we'll use a trim tool and just pop this wire out right here. That's loose. On this junction box right here, we're going to disconnect all these connectors. Just push down on the tabs, disconnect them. They're only going to go in one spot. That. And this junction box is going to fold out. Just push on the tabs on the side, slide it out, and it slides out like that. You can flip it around. You can disconnect the connectors on the back. Just slide these out. That. And set that aside. Down here, I'm going to use a 13mm socket. There's 2 bolts that you need to remove. They attach the frame of the dash to the vehicle. Loosen these up. Be careful of the window again. There's one, and the other one's right here. And it's just on the driver's side. If you need to, you can use a magnet. Now on the sides, I'm using a 13mm socket. We're going to take this bolt out and this bolt. Then the dash is going to be loose. We'll do the same on the other side. Now we're going to pull the dash out. On the driver's side, I have a cardboard box with a blanket on top of it, and it's going to sit on that area. The wires are still attached. They go through the firewall on this side, so this side's not just going to pull out a little bit. The other side is going to swing out, and it's a good idea to have a assistant with you doing this while you're doing it. It's going to make it a little bit easier. Okay. And just grab. We're just going to pull it out, pick it up a little bit, and just put it down. It's good right there. Yeah, that's pretty good right there. Take an 8mm wrench, and we're going to loosen up the antenna. Just twist to the left. And it comes off. And using a trim tool, just get underneath this plate. Just pop it up. Slides out of the way. Now we're going to take these screws out. I'm going to keep a magnet nearby, make it a little easier so I don't drop them. Use a 7mm socket. Slide those out. And last one. Be careful, it is close to the paint on the car here, so. Slide that out. Disconnect the connector right here, just push down on the tab and slides right out. Using a 5.5mm socket, take these 2 screws out. And just grab this piece, slide it up. Then you want to slide it out. And just slide this out very carefully, just like that. Now we can see where the antenna goes in. Pull back on some of the insulation. There's the grommet right there. You want to push that grommet through. Just use a trim tool or a screwdriver. Right there. Now I'm just going to pull this through here. Before I send that all the way in, I am going to tie a wire on the end of this. I'll just use some tape and tape this up. Just some masking tape's fine. You can use electrical tape as well. That's good. That way, when I fish this through, as I pull the antenna up here, it's going to pull the wire through. And feed it through. That way we can take this off here and we can tie the new antenna to this and it'll make it easier fishing it in. Take the new antenna, just wrap this around a little bit. There we go. And you can pull gently on the cable or the wire as we fish it in. Now we can take the tape off. And you want to wiggle that grommet in place. Make sure it's in there properly. That's good. Now feed that wire through the insulation. And push that all back. I'll just run that up here. You can even tape it out of the way, make it easier. Now we can put that piece back and slide this in position. And get that lined up. Takes a little bit of effort to get this lined up properly. All right, that's lined up. I'll put the 2 screws in. And tighten these down. And put the wire under here, take the connector, line it up, lock it down, and take the bolts, get the bolts started. This lined up. And just snug it down. And you can put this cover on, line it up, push it down, put the antenna on, take the 8mm wrench and tighten it down. And just snug, not too tight. Now just grab the dash, slide it up. And it's going to go on the same way it came off. There we go. You can see where there's a pin that's going to get lined up right there. Makes it easier to line the whole dash up. Just pull the weather stripping out of the way. And take the bolts, get those 4 bolts started, just to hold it from falling. So don't tighten those down yet, but you can just get those placed in. Those 4 bolts, 2 on each side, right there and the other side. Go Before we tighten any of those bolts down, you want to just make sure the wires are up, that are supposed to be up on the side there. And we're going to take the 2 bolts that go straight down here, get those started. Get that out of the way. You're going to have to push the dash forward. It's going to go down here. Oops. Get that lined up and started. And on the other side over here, if you have a socket with a magnet in it, or you could tape the bolt to the socket, that would help. Get this lined up. And we're going to tighten these bolts down on the side first. Do the other side. Now we'll tighten these down. Now you want to take these bolts and get these started. If they don't line up right, you can loosen up those other bolts we just tightened and adjust so that these do fit, but these are working just fine. And tighten those down. Now you want to connect the connectors, line those up. With the retainers, push those in. Take this wiring harness where the ground is. It's going to go in there. And connect this connector. And we can push this into the retainers. It's going to go in the back of here. Just like that. And we'll put this nut on. Now making sure that ground wire is still on there, and then put the nut on. And then we'll tighten that down. Snug that down. Now connect the connector right here. Just line that up. Lock that down. The antenna connector over here. Plug that in, just like that. And this retainer is going to go right there. And the ground wire over here. Push that on, the stud. Take the nut, get that started. And snug it down. Now I take this panel, I'm going to take the ambient light sensor, get that started underneath here, and twist it to the right. And get this lined up. There is clips in the front that are going to go in. Put those in first. And then push it down, make sure it's not going to crush any of the wires. Now take these panels, connect the speaker right there, and line it up down below first. Click it in, and this is going to line up top. Get the weather stripping underneath. looks good. Now take the screw, get that lined up. And snug that down. And put the cover on, lock it down. Now we're going to do the other side, connect the speaker. Line it up down below. And get the weather strip all set. Now put the handle in. And get the screws. And start the screws. Make sure that's out of the way. And tighten those down. Take the caps, line those up. Connect this wire right here and push down on the tab. It's locked in. And then the retainer is going to go up here. Push that in right there. That's good. Now these wires are all going to go up here on the side. And this wire is going to hook up right there. And then push in right there. Line this up. Now it's going to go right there. Lock in place. And take the other connectors. Get these lined up. It's going to go right there. And this one, go under this wire. It's going to go right there. Lock it down. And take this panel, line this up. That will lock in place. You take this panel, that's going to go over there. And slide this panel in place. And lock it down. Now take this junction box, connect that. Connect the connectors in the back first. It's going right there. And ratchet it down. And this one. And these two are going in the back as well. There and there. Now this can go in the bracket. Line that up. Lock it down. Then all the other ones can go in the front. These will only go in one spot. So if you don't remember where they go, you can check. They should line up one of the spots. This one goes right there. Lock those in and take these connectors, line these up, lock that down. There's another one right here. Lock that down, and then you can push these push pins in. These are secure. And some of these BCM connectors, connect those. Just like that. That's that ground that's going to get attached later. And this wire harness right here. These are going to go over here. And it's going to connect right there. Get those connected. Make sure they're all locked in. And push these wires in over here. That one's going to go right there. Now we're going to put the steering column back in, but before we do that, we had these spacers that need to go right here and right here. Just taking a little piece of butyl tape and just pushing these on. It'll be easier than trying to fiddle with them, putting them up there. Just a little bit. You could tape them on if you wanted to, or even glue them on, but it's not going to affect anything. Now I'll slide this down. Go on the studs. Make sure you have the nuts nearby. Get those started. And the back ones, you can double check, make sure those washers are still there, or spacers, and they are. Oops. Get that nut started. And get this one started. Make sure the wires are out of the way. Looks good. Before we tighten the nuts down, in the back we have this cable that's going to wrap around this, so you want to get that in position. That's the shift cable. It's going to go right there. It just wraps around there. So get that all settled first before you tighten the nuts down, because then you can still shift it a little bit. Just like that. That looks good. Now we're going to snug these down. And now we're going to torque those to 20 foot-pounds. Now we're going to connect the steering shaft to the bottom of the column. You can turn the wheel back and forth slightly. Remember, you don't want to turn it all the way. Get that to slide in place. And take the bolts and the nut. Get that started. And we'll tighten that down. And once it's snug, we're going to torque it. Now I'm going to torque this to 46 foot-pounds. Now the steering's attached down below. If you put a wire tie around here, you can cut that at this time. Now just take this speaker, line this up on the studs in the back, and put the nuts on. Got one there, and two in the back. And tighten those down. gonna take this bracket, line this up. It's gonna go right there. Get the bolts started. And we'll tighten those down. Take the cover, line the cover up, and lock it down. Now just line this up, slide it in position. Make sure these go over the studs, just like that, on both sides. Now connect the connectors. You can slide that on the tab, right there. This connector, line that up, ratchet it down. It's just gonna attach right there. And take this compartment, and remember there's two little tabs here. Those are gonna slide in first, and then push it down. And line the shift cable up. Slide it in position, lock it in, and you can put this on. Just squeeze it, it should be lined up. Take this little horseshoe tab, it's gonna slide in there and lock down. Now connect the connectors. This one's gonna go in here. Once that's in, you're gonna have to ratchet it, lock it in place, and then this connector is gonna go to the BCM right there. Lock that in place. And feed this wire down. This is gonna go over here. Connect into here. That's gonna lock in place. And lock that lock in. And it's gonna attach right here. That's good. Now take this piece. It's gonna line up right here. And get all the nuts started. Two on this side, two on the other. And tighten those down. And on this vehicle, we had a ground strap that goes right here, ground wire. We're gonna put a nut on that. Your vehicle probably doesn't have that, but if it does, snug that up. Now this lower air duct is gonna go in right there. And the push pin's gonna go right here. And just push that in. Where these wires are right here, I'm just gonna wire tie these together just to keep them from rubbing on anything. You don't have to do it too tight, just keep them together. That's good. You can just trim the excess. Now I take this cover, line this up, snap it in place. Take the parking brake release handle, and just slide that in position, and then take the bolt, get that started. It goes underneath here. Tighten that down, and take the screws, get those started. And we'll tighten these down. This connector right here is going to go in this position. Just push that in. right there. That's out of the way. Now I take this cover, slide this over, just line it up. And lock it in place. And slide this together. Just lock it down. And put this cover in place. Lock it down. I'm going to take the cover, line this up. Get the screws started. And tighten those down. And there should be one more screw that goes right in there. This vehicle did not have that, but you want to put that in and tighten that down. Now connect the negative terminal end. And we'll tighten that up. Just snug it up. Just grab it. Make sure it's not loose. Give it a wiggle. That's tight. Now we're going to put the seats back in. We're going to connect the connector first. Plug that in. Lock it on. And then just make sure the seats line up with all the studs. The wire doesn't get crushed. That's good there. That's good. And now we're going to install the bolts in the rear. Get those started. Might have to wiggle the seat a little bit. Just going to tighten these down. Just so they're almost tight, not quite, so we can wiggle the seat if we have to for the front. Now move the seat back. I'll put the nuts on up front. Now we'll tighten these down. Now I'm going to torque these to 41 foot-pounds. Now I'm going to move the seat forward again. Now tighten the rear. Then we'll torque the rear bolts to 66 foot-pounds. Now take the seat belt. You want to make sure the seat belt's not twisted. What you can do is actually plug it in. Make sure that goes the correct way. It's going to slide through here. Line that up. Put the bolt in. And we'll tighten that down. And we'll torque this to 38 foot-pounds. And take this cover. These two slots are going to go in first. Just line that up, lock it down. Now this cover is going to go on right here. That's going to go on that stud. Line that up and lock it down. Now slide this cover over the connector. It's going to slide in that side first and then push down in the front. Just lock it in place. And that's locked in. Now this cover is going to go right here. Lock it in and put this cover on. And this one's gonna go over here, line it up, lock it down. And then you can do the same on the other side.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.